The Haraka Al-Hussainiya Zahra Trust teamed up to organise the Imam Hussein ﷺ conference in London. With the rise of so many deviations and so many challenges Muslims face in the West, the conference wanted to shed light on how we can derive eternal lessons from the Master of Martyrs. This year the conference hosted scholars and speakers from all around the world to speak at the conference and just how Imam Hussein ﷺ wanted his revolution to being reform into the Muslim Ummah. The aims of this conference was to bring reform into ourselves and encourage Muslims around the world to be united under the banner of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Our correspondent Ali Hassan Jaigani with more.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا أبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام. I stand here before you on the day after the tragedy of Ashura at a conference set up by the Haraka Al-Hussainiya team to explore the message of Abi Abdullah. They've invited all the international speakers that were here present within London and the UK for Muharram 1445. What they've done is excellent. They've told all of them, tell us the lessons we can derive and implement from the message of Abi Abdullah, from the sacrifice of Abu Abdullah. There's expected to be over 1,000 people here today. And this is the beauty of the message of Abu Abdullah, that it's not just those 10 days where we grieve and mourn. After those 10 days, we have to remember that the tragedy for the women and the children has just begun. Tonight and today, Sayyidah Zainab is now the flag bearer of what's left of Imam al-Hussein's camp.
Yeah, so today is a conference called the Hussein Conference. It's essentially a conference in order to bring together all of the international speakers that are around in the UK, especially those names that some of the residents of London and the surrounding cities don't have access to. Some international speakers that have a lot of influence and are very inspirational in their talks. So bringing them all together, there is a need, because of these international speakers being around, there is a need to talk about some very, very important subjects and topics. So the Hussein Conference essentially brings the name of Imam Hussein in just after the 10 nights of Muharram. Everyone is still passionate, everyone is still mournful of Imam Hussein, able to have an active change in their life, being inspired by these international speakers.
Today I found it very inspiring, very interesting. It's wonderful to hear from the various scholars from around the world, the ladies, and everyone that has sort of used their own experience to inspire their communities through the message of Imam Hussein. It's been absolutely wonderful to be a part of this.
The 10th of Muharram, the day of Ashura, is filled with tremendously important and very powerful role models, people who have truly established their mark in history. And it's so difficult to pick somebody, of course, other than Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Sayyid Shuhada. He is, of course, the leader of the whole story of Karbala. He's the leader of the University of Ashura. But if we were to choose somebody else other than him and from amongst his students, so to speak, I feel that there's no doubt that the closest person to him was Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, salamullahi alayhi. The tragedy and the musibah of Abu al-Fadl, for me personally, touches my heart. And even when I'm reciting the musibah, it's so different. I feel different. It sends shivers down my spine. And those moments on the 10th of Muharram, for Abu al-Fadl, there's so many angles to look at, from willpower to self-control to altruism to the power of the heart and what anybody can achieve if they look towards these glorious examples. So salamullahi ala qamar bani Hashim babul hawaij saqi al-atasha hamili liwa al-Husayn Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas salamullahi alayhi.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we've had an amazing conference so far. Many lessons have been taken today. One of the key ones has been how Abi Abdullah needs to be looked at throughout the year. And this is not just a message for the 10 days or the 40 days till Arba'in. Imam Hussein needs to resonate in our hearts. You know, when the saying comes, La yawma ya Aba Abdullah, that day is only his day, of course, but his message resonates through timelines. Through the entire year, his message needs to be in our hearts. We can't just forget him once these 10 days passed. And that's the beauty of this conference. It's really influencing and assuring that youth and the community itself remembers Abi Abdullah and doesn't just think, you know what, after the 10 days I can go back to being myself, I can go back to doing things that I may not have done during these 10 nights. No, the message of Hussein needs to stick in your heart and make a difference to you too.
We want the children to reach their full potential, number one, and to understand the effects of injustice and what it can do to a society. I think the onus lies on the elders of the family. They need to step up and deal with the children with rahmah, like my grandma did. It changes your life. I think it's important, but I think each of these speakers are so phenomenal. They need a platform on their own. When you've got so many, there's so much information to process. It's quite difficult.
Alhamdulillah, one of the beauties of this conference is it's showing how there's so many different perspectives in terms of mentality. But as Shias, it's our responsibility to stick to the perspective of the Ahlul Bayt. Everything has to go back to the teaching of the Ahlul Bayt. Unfortunately, in the modern era, for example, the LGBT movement and other such active movements have made such a difference to the modern view
years ago, they did a poll
that
in the
you
US.
can't do it more. But it becomes our duty that today, within the world that we live in, we stick to the mindset and mentality of the Ahlul Bayt.
So over the last, today's the 11th night, the guys behind you here on the camera, Haraka Al-Hussainiya volunteers, we've been making food for our guests, between 800 to 1,000 a day, and yeah, that's what we're doing here today. Well, for me personally, I like giving back to the community in the best way I can, and my family inspired me from a very young age to give back and support the guests that come for Abu Abdullah. And for me, something small I can do for the sacrifices that Ahlul Bayt made. And yeah, and today in particular, there's a Imam Hussain conference. So there's a lot of very highly respected Shia scholars just next door. And they're answering all the public questions and kind of going through all the important points. Yes, and we're making food for all the attendees.
It has been an amazing conference. We've learned so much. We've been inspired by so much. You know, today is a very difficult day for us as Shia. It is a day that the Sabaya are taking. A day in which, for the first time, Sayyida Zainab is left without her hijab. For the first time, Sayyida Zainab has had to hold the sword and become the Abbas of the army of Hussein. So for us as Shias, it was going to be a very difficult day regardless. But this conference has really educated and touched our hearts. Why? I'll give you an example. Today, Sayyid Muhdim al-Darasi said something very beautiful. He said, for us as Shia, it is a shame that we have to use people from external organizations such as Mahatma Gandhi or others to quote Imam Hussein or to give the message of Imam Hussein. When we want to introduce Imam Hussein, Karbala's revolution is enough. And talking about Karbala's revolution and speaking the truth about the message of Allah should be more than enough. But we don't know enough. We just know how he died. We don't know the message and legacy he left behind. And it's our duty that outside of Hussainiyas, we do institutional organizations like this. We create amazing opportunities for Shias to be able to give the perspective of who Abi Abdullah really was and the message that Allah